Welcome to the How to DAO podcast, brought to you by GreenPilled Network. We are excited to introduce our new podcast series dedicated to the transformative world of decentralized autonomous organization. How to DAO originated as a book co-authored by Kevin and me, set to be published by Penguin Random House on January 21st. This podcast extends that mission as we explore the unique stories and innovative breakthroughs that are shaping the future of Web3 and DAO. We will hear directly from the visionaries and builders at the forefront of this movement. This series is more than just a show. It's a vibrant space for learning, inspiration, and meaningful connections. So let's dive in. Welcome to the How to DAO podcast, brought to you by GreenPilled Network. Today, we have Mona on the podcast. Mona Tiesler is renowned Web3 venture capitalist, venture builder, and educator dedicated to advancing the blockchain and cryptocurrency ecosystem. As an investment manager at Tokentus Investment AG, she has played a pivotal role in funding and supporting innovative blockchain startups worldwide. Recognized as the Web3 Investor of the Year 2024 and one of the most inspirational women in Web3 and AI, Mona combines her expertise in venture capital with a passion for fostering groundbreaking projects in Web3. So, welcome, Mona.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that lovely introduction. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for accepting the invite and also helping with the book. So, you like the parts about the venture capital are some of them it's from you. So, we really appreciate that. And you also wrote recently an article, which I think will be great start for our listener. Is like how to actually evaluate cryptocurrencies as such. And like this is not a financial or legal advice, but just like some kind of mindset play. If we are thinking to put some money into tokens.
Sure, yeah, I'll try to keep it short. I think in essence, when you think about evaluating a cryptocurrency, there's two sides to look at. One of them is looking at what we call fundamental analysis, and the other one is technical analysis, which I think are probably nice starting points to work from. In terms of fundamental analysis, to give a little bit of a more tangible example, would be, for example, say you're buying a house, you want to buy real estate in the market. So, more fundamental analysis would be say that you're inspecting the property itself, you're inspecting the neighborhood, you're checking if this neighborhood has growth potential. For example, might there be a public transport that is going to be built there in the next few years? Are there local hospitals, good schools? Right? So you're kind of doing a fundamental analysis of the property and the surroundings. Technical analysis in this example would be more around what have the historical price trends been of properties in the area, and is this an uptrending trend that will help you potentially figure out if there is further price potential upwards movement if you're thinking about buying this property as an investment. Similar with crypto, believe it or not. You can think about it as kind of fundamental and technical, where you're looking at really the intrinsic value of the asset versus or in addition to the forecasting of the future price by looking at past performance. I'll leave it there, but happy to go into more detail. But in essence, I think that's maybe a good starting point for people who are trying to figure out where do I start to just kind of look at those two pillars.
No, I think it's a great example. And I did not hear this kind of comparison, but it makes so much sense. Like you invest into something what has the long-term potential, and how you prove the long-term potential is that you already see that was some past performance, basically, and it's not just like makeup thing. And like we can see this failures happening in real estate market and in crypto. So we have the meme coins, they are pumping like for a day, sometimes even shorter. and then dumping. But you have also this artificial city. I think China is most famous for that. Like, they just build up the city on the green field, but nobody lives there. So it actually bankrupted at the end, or they never finish it. And yeah, well, but cities like New York, we can maybe compare New York to something like a Bitcoin. San Francisco as Ethereum because it's little newer. They've been here for a while. They had their ups and downs, but yeah, they will probably be here also for a little longer. So when you like look at the cryptocurrency, is there anything else like what people, if they want to go deeper,
Mhm.
kind of can look at it? Is there, I get the charts, and if they have just like Coinbase or something, they probably see only the charts. But is there some other sources they might want to look at?
Well, very simply speaking, even you could start with the website. Of course, you can also look at something like CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko for some of the more, price trends and where this coin is trading, which exchanges, etc. But maybe even to go one step back, looking at the website to kind of understand who's behind this, who developed this, what is the development team's background, what are their past successes, what are their skill sets. That's also often an interesting indicator to understand how experienced are the founders and the people behind this project. You can also look at maybe some of the documentation that is linked on the websites if you want to dive even deeper, understand a little bit more about the technology. Is it a robust infrastructure? How have they built this? Which chain are they built on? Or are they, creating a whole new, for example, layer one blockchain? Why is that needed? What is the value add over other blockchains in the market? Right. So there's a few things that you could analyze there, make up your own opinion, and also then look for maybe certain indicators that are valuable to you or that you think are growth or success factors. And then, of course, a big aspect around it is also the utility of the cryptocurrency itself, which means what is it used for, right? Like, is this project going to have intrinsic value that is accrued in the token? Or is it maybe just a fundraising mechanism, whereas really the token is not useful for anything, which means probably long term that token will not trade very highly and you might lose money on it. Token utility can be anything from governance of the overall protocol to maybe even revenue sharing, which makes it a security. So there are other aspects there to consider. But there's a lot of different ways that can where a token can power a whole economy, which gives it utility, which therefore, has a reason to exist and therefore will accrue the value of the project itself. Um, and, there's a lot of things I could mention. There's maybe one last point that is rather or a little bit easier to see is, in my opinion, something like partnerships and marketing. How big is the ecosystem? How active is the project? Is it explaining themselves? Is it putting forward thought leadership in the market? Is it speaking on, for example, X spaces or AMAs? Are the founders active, maybe with Medium articles or similar? And that can also give you a little bit of an indication of how much research, as well as how much partnerships, potential clients, and users this particular project or protocol can accrue or has already accrued, which could be nice indicators to understand, okay, in future, will this be used? Will there be enough value generating mechanisms that power this for the long term?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And when I'm doing my research, I'm trying to kind of do the similar. Sometimes I'm too lazy. That's why I'm losing money. Well, very often on my
Oh, we
investing.
all do, we all do. I think that's something a lot of us will have to come to terms with. It's part of I always call it learning money. It's not a lot, but I call it learning money, and it's part of the development I think most of us, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most of us go through when we start looking at the cryptocurrency market and want to participate in it.
Yeah, and like you should start with small amounts, the learning money, the pocket money you can lose, and now I
Exactly.
started like like going into some, like, let's say a little bit more altcoins, just like for
Mhm.
fun. And I don't want to put like hundreds or thousands of dollars into it. Just like, 20, $50 here and there, and see how it's performing. Have fun kind of doing it. More like a game. And like on that, like short-term gains, I think sometimes even like the Twitter following matters. Like, if the project has like
Mhm.
500,000 followers, like there is like indication they will go somewhere. It's not probably the long term, indication. Like, it can be just a hype, but for the short term, can be there. But what you said also, like, if another L1, L2 makes sense, yeah, I'm wondering the same. Like, we have so many infrastructure projects these days. Like, does that make more sense to do?
I think we see surprisingly, actually, if I may say that, but I am surprised by how many this current cycle new L1, L2s, and even L3s are coming onto the market, where, you know, I think if you are evaluating the cryptocurrency market, I would really think about, is it necessary to have another infrastructure base layer? And if, why? And then from all the contenders to the probably more or larger ecosystems that already exist, will these new blockchains be able to attract enough projects, enough excitement, enough developers in order to sustain themselves? And that is something I think you do have to look into, because a lot of the times it might also be short lived. So that is something maybe to calculate into your, specifically if you're trading, into your trading strategy. Because yes, the market is growing, but do we really need thousands and thousands of layer one blockchains? My opinion is we do not.
Well, I would say Chris Dixon agrees with you, because then
That's good.
he shared, I think it was a couple days ago, like
Mm,
the A16Z kind of
mm,
ideas for 2025. And one of them, which I really like, it's like, let's not reinvent the infrastructure. Let's like reuse it.
mm.
So basically, like we already have the infrastructure. Let's just start building on top of it, and that's getting us more into kind of the app ecosystem. Like, is there any killer app on crypto which like normal people can actually use? Do you see some like good adoption here?
To be honest, I wish I could give you a super clear cut answer. I actually cannot. I cannot really pinpoint a killer app. I'm seeing more apps that are utilizing blockchain technology in some way or form, but are very, like, let's say, user friendly or Web 2 interface styled. Um, Travel apps, for example, so creating the ability to use cryptocurrency payment for booking travel, such as accommodation. I've been seeing, which is interesting in the sense that people might get more accustomed to seeing crypto payment rails right next to their Visa and Mastercard option, which is an example where blockchain technology is used, and it's fully powered, this app, by blockchain technology, but it's anybody could use it that also uses booking.com or any of the competitors that are similar, Expedia, etc., in the market. We're seeing some apps around the I would even say the deepen space, which I think has slightly more real world utility in some ways as well. If people can, basically get rewarded for sharing their leftover energy, for example, through not using their internet or their whatever it may be that generates energy in their home, then that could create a few more, I would say, applications, even with hardware in some of these cases, that normal Web 2 users might want to get in contact with without understanding the blockchain infrastructure in the background, because they get rewards for participating in that ecosystem. So I feel like we are seeing building blocks of more easy to use and more clear use cases for, let's say, the non-native crypto user and the blockchain tech space. But a super app or a killer app, I'm very happy to hear if you have seen one, but I sadly haven't been able to pinpoint yet.
Yeah, I don't think we are there where kind of our parents can like use crypto and like be kind of comfortable with it. I onboarded my father into crypto
Nice.
probably last year or like a year ago. But like simple investing, like just like learn what is Bitcoin, learn what is Ethereum, stick to that. Then
Mm-hmm.
he calls me, "Hey, it went up. Should I buy more?" Like, no, now you should sell. But like, he holds like and like just actually just holding that, he's like learning about it because he's now interested, like why it's actually growing, and now he hit $100,000. So, I'm probably getting another call from my father, like what I should do now. And a funny fact, actually, my parents and Mona parents lives in two different countries, but 10 minutes from each other. So that's what I learned before this podcast, which is fun. Do your parents use crypto or like have some crypto or something, or they are totally out of it?
No, no, sadly not. My parents, well, at least my father is over 80, so he actually still has a brick phone, not even an iPhone. So he did not become part of the tech revolution, but kind of stayed on the normal path. But yeah, my I think my mother is interested but very cautious. Maybe similar to many other people, I believe that now that there's so much mainstream media around Bitcoin hitting this milestone, I've had a lot of requests, people saying, "Oh, how can I participate? How can I get into this?" And that is amazing. But I also realize that, if you ask the wrong person, you might not get the best advice. So I think it's quite important to also always do your own research and have a little bit like your father, understanding, asking somebody you trust, like your son, and researching a bit about why movements of price actually occur. Because otherwise, if you just blindly kind of follow what people advise you, we've heard some bad stories on that. And yeah, if my mom would ever want to get in, I think she would also probably just do Bitcoin and Ethereum, and that's probably where it would stop. But that is still the goal, to get her hooked on this at some point.
Yeah, like and like it's fun and they then read the news and like, they're kind of happy and they're even happy for me because like they know that my net worth it's basically all in crypto, so they're like if my savings are growing, probably my son's savings are growing even more.
Yes.
So that's like the connection I'm keeping with my parents, so they know how I'm doing. When the price is dropping, they call me if I'm okay. uh,
Amazing. Yeah, yeah, I see. I've heard this, it's so interesting how a lot of from our industry, how there's when the price is up, there's also a lot of positivity overall, the whole industry is very upbeat. And then when the prices drop and the bear market, is in full swing, there's a very big negative, feeling and sadness in the industry. We'll see how after this cycle things evolve, but we have already hit quite a lot of growth in the recent years. So that's quite exciting.
Yeah, actually, like the growth was phenomenal if you like really go long term. And Brian Armstrong posted about it that it's like the best performing asset basically in years. If you bought Bitcoin when Coinbase was founded, I think it was like $100 of Bitcoin. It's now worth of like $1.5 million.
Yeah, I saw that tweet as well today. It's a great tweet, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, well, I wish I bought it back then, but I did not.
Yeah, me neither, sadly, but hey, um,
But we are still
let's
early. We are still early. Like, this industry been here just for, I don't know, 15 years. Like really, pumping in last
yeah,
7, something like that. So we have long way to go. And like, I think if you are just now learning about crypto, like you should join us, because it will be fun. Now we are going to the hopefully the bull market, so the upcycle, so everything gets more shiny. And
yes.
if you are a builder, so like now we talk about a lot like people who just want to invest or want to
Mhm.
like play around with crypto. But if you're actually building something, like what do you advise there? Like, okay, you are a builder, you might have some idea with startups, and now you learn about crypto, and we're like, well, should I use crypto for my startup? Is there some benefit to it? Do you have some like answer to them or questions they should ask themselves?
I think the main question is, do you actually need the blockchain technology or a token for your project to be viable? One of the things I believe, investors like myself and my colleagues in the industry, we have seen too often startups that have just mentioned on their slide deck or in their pitch that it's a blockchain, Web3, AI, all the big technological buzzwords. But in essence, their product, their idea, the success of what they're building has zero connection or need to have a blockchain technological, baseline or use cryptocurrency um, projects raise just because they can raise via a token and don't have to give away equity share to investors. And if you're thinking of doing something like that, I would really, really think twice, because the really good investors, in my opinion, they will see through that and they will ask you very clearly over and over again, why do you need a token? Why are you using blockchain technology for, building this startup? And if you can't really answer that with conviction, it probably will do you much more harm than good in the long run or even in the short run. So if you want to build in the Web3 space, I think that's great, but build something that, the world needs and that blockchain technology can really enhance, rather than just because it's trendy to have that on your pitch deck.
Yeah, I know these founders like they've been here like 2022, were all Web3, and 2023 where they were all AI.
Yeah,
Uh
exactly.
It doesn't matter like what my product is, but I'm just like putting the right buzzword on the right time. Yeah, definitely doesn't make sense. But as you mentioned, with the use cases like payment, it's a great thing. And if you need to do some payments within your product or company, and it's more like international, like crypto can be the most efficient way of doing it. And it doesn't need to be crypto company per se, but it's just like using it within. So we like use the technology wisely, as Mona mentioned. Like you don't need to over promise on the blockchain, but you can just use the specific things, I believe, like what actually makes sense. And when we get into like more like tokens. So, like the product is one side, and if you are use blockchain or not. But now when we like, okay, now tokens and like DAOs and like, being actually a crypto company means like fully on chain, how people should think about that? Like maybe you can give some examples of like DAOs which you think are really great use cases. And we can go from there.
I would say, well, I mean, I'm a little biased, but I am part of a investment DAO fund of funds, which is essentially an investment DAO that invests and incubates other investment DAOs. And an investment DAO is essentially a DAO structure, so a decentralized organization that gets money from the members of the group of the DAO members, and then has a voting mechanism that allows people in the DAO to vote on where this investment uh, goes to. So I actually think this is a very innovative and also very forward-thinking way of looking at the venture capital industry. Because in this way, all of the limited partners, the LPs, right, that in a traditional fund model provide capital and then often wait and have very little say or ability to, have any kind of control in where their money is invested, and then they hopefully receive a return on investment after a certain period of time, 5, 7, 10, 15 years. Whereas in a DAO structure, first of all, your participation can be rewarded, right? So again, if you basically make sure your capital that you put into this investment DAO gets allocated into projects that you like and that you did your due diligence on. But then you also potentially lead a due diligence here and there. You get rewarded for participating and managing this for the other DAO members. So, yes, it's a little bit more involvement than just providing capital and then waiting for a return. But it also means you have a lot more control and you have a learning opportunity. It's a community that you can tap into of other investors, of people with different knowledge bases than yourself. So I really think that that's an example of DAOs that is not often discussed because it's not maybe the first thing that comes to mind. But and I know you probably have lots of guests, who are working in a variety of different DAOs and in different DAO structures. But since this is, where I have my main focus, I think that that's something that is really super, super interesting and has a lot of potential for the future. And this is also in that structure, it's also you use the crypto for the cross-border payments. You have, a clear visibility and transparency on the treasury. You understand the salaries of the people that are maybe more in a managerial function. So um, it's a lot more transparent and I think quite exciting structure of venture capital. And I think, just to finish that thought, with AI now, actually, that's I think quite interesting to start building into DAO structures, investment DAOs or other, for example, governance insights or automating certain operational tasks, which now often still need, a human leadership council or person that executes, certain organizational operational tasks and leads things versus if you could use AI when it's a bit more developed and functional in that respect, you could actually really make it a real DAO, meaning like there's genuinely, you know, full community ownership of all aspects once some of these AI processes are in place. So I think there's quite a lot of exciting potential there for DAOs and specifically investment DAOs.
No, and that's cool. Like the DAOs also kind of started as an investment DAO. The DAO itself, which might have not been the most successful DAO in the history. And you can read it in our book how they kind of failed, but also succeeded in kicking off like the DAO ecosystem. So I hope you are using better smart contracts and you did your audit.
Mhm.
Because that's important, like you need to be safe first,
Yeah.
and go go from there. But it is interesting on the AI side. How do you think this will play out? Like I understand like from AI perspective, like it's actually better to be in like within a DAO because everything is digital, everything is on chain. So it's easier for any kind of digitalization, including AI, to kind of operate because there is no like pen and paper type of thing which you
Mm,
need human to put into it. So that's like kind of I would say like the obvious advantage why AI can be more efficient within DAOs. But
yeah.
how you think also AI can help DAOs actually to succeed? Like, what do you see like the biggest first two steps be happening?
So I think we have to be also aware of the ethical considerations, right? And there's still a lot of limitations with using AI for a full governance structure, for example. So I want to say that up front. But I do think that AI can increase efficiency and also potentially decision-making processes, right? In terms of, for example, governance automation, so proposal filtering by priorities, something like sentiment analysis, predictive analysis, to understand maybe decision outcomes, to get if not everybody is maybe involved in the voting, to still have an idea of how the people generally might vote, so you have an understanding of what the vote could be, and then understand if there's an outlier or a different situation, just to be able to analyze a little bit better what is happening, how are the thoughts and feelings of your DAO members changing. You have a lot of that analysis can just happen in the background, and you don't need a human who puts all of their time into doing this for the DAO, which is just, in my experience, something that just doesn't happen. So a lot of, you know, there's not a lot of documentation, not a lot of data analysis, not a lot of structure a lot of the time in some of the DAOs that I've seen, because nobody has the capacity or maybe the ownership of doing that, versus AI can just spit that out naturally and learn with the group's decision makings and individuals' decision making styles and thoughts, which is also a bit scary, but it is something I think which we see evolving. And then I think, I mean, just on the top of my head, you could have something like incentive structures maybe managed better by AI, kind of analyzing or incentivizing, different reward mechanisms, kind of identifying more maybe of the freeloaders and unhealthy behaviors from people, versus, very strongly contributing people, having that instead of tracked manually, having a system that just gives you dashboards, AI enhanced, making everything potentially a bit more smooth and some of the tooling that exists at hand. I can maybe pull out a few more ideas out of my hat, but that's kind of initially what comes to mind. I don't know how you think about it. I mean, you're really deep in the weeds in this topic. Have you looked at the AI additional stuff in the detail?
Well, I use ChatGPT every day, so I'm
Yeah.
deep into AI this way. And you know, one of the things is like just like getting understanding of something very complex, and the
True.
ChatGPT can help me to like answer my question. So like now, like so I used to be MakerDAO delegate. So what you would have is like the team is putting up proposal, which is very
Right.
technical usually, and then there is a Q&A session, so you can ask the team, okay, can you explain this? Can you explain that? And like you go through it. Everyone has different questions based on their kind of angle and stuff like that. With the AI, like you can have the proposal analyzed right away. And then if I have a question like a delegate, I can ask my question without kind of taking time from the others. And it can automatically answer that because it has all the context, it has everything. So I think as you said, like making it more efficient
True.
make a lot of sense. I'm a little skeptical on like making like summaries and like just like this like big high level pictures of things, because I feel like it can incentivize the wrong behavior in a sense, like people would just get more lazy. They're already
Mhm.
not really
True.
involved, and then like
Yeah.
you give them even more like options to not be involved, because like it's just
Mhm.
like you don't need to go deep. You are getting this 5 sentences like about the DAO. I don't think that's the maybe right approach, but that's my personal opinion. But agree that the incorporation of AI go to solve for some boring tasks, or help me understand and actually go deeper into the topics, make so much sense. The second what you mentioned and the incentivization, that's an interesting one. I never thought about it, but now when you were talking, we usually set up the tokenomics and incentivization with like very much like fixed variables, and it's like kind of long term. And at some point it's not working. When you like create some incentives, like some targets, like those incentives basically just go this one way, but everything else get dropped. And like AI can be way more flexible. It's like, oh, now we need more help here. So we incentivize that behavior and disincentivize the other. And like, I think that makes sense, to be honest. Like, I never thought about it, but I think this can be really good thing for like more flexible tokenomics. And now we are getting again into why DAOs. It's like, you cannot really incentivize in the C Corp in the
Mm,
same way. Because
yeah.
like we have a flexible tokens with smart contracts. The AI can play with it. I can drop you 10 tokens now, 15 for something else, and it can be super fast, super flexible, and we can do that and we can improve on it. If we are C Corp, like yeah, I can probably drop you like some tip or like end year bonus, but that's like once a year or once a month, it doesn't like really like being
It's not
like very up
dynamic.
to date. Exactly.
Mm.
Do you see DAOs actually evolving? Like, you've been in the space for a while. So is it the DAO what we consider in like 2017, the same DAO would we consider DAO now? Or how you see the space kind of going?
I think it is constantly evolving, to be honest, and I think it's good because the concept had to be tried, tested, had to go wrong a few times, had to go right a few times. That's just how new structures evolve, and it is a human-centered approach as well, which means there are going to be trials and tribulations, and many iterations. And so I guess, to be a bit more concrete, what I've seen in terms of improvements or developments, I feel like the tooling has massively improved, like snapshot voting, for example, or the multi-sigs. There's more legal and documentation type support in the tooling that I've seen. So a lot of that has been positively standardized, so it's easier to adopt a DAO governance model. I also feel like one of the issues we've often seen is that the DAO was this monster and it was very hard to manage. It was just huge and a lot of, members, but very few doers. Versus now I see kind of sub DAOs and a bit more of a kind of structured, agile, structured approach, which then causes, a lot more efficiency and a lot more ownership and a lot more doing from DAO members to actually create like a community driven mechanism, which is, essentially what I think it's supposed to be. And again, a little bit biased, but what I really like about, the Hydra model is that it also focuses on investment DAOs that are specific to a topic, right? So we have a potentially for digital art one, then for a specific ecosystem like Near or Urbit one, then we have DAOs that specifically focus on social graphs and social startups. So it's a little bit really kind of niche DAOs, I think, that have been evolving, not just foundations that have a DAO to govern protocols, but you also have industry expert research type DAOs as well, which create, I think, or have the potential to create a lot of knowledge and a lot of growth for different industries with experts that have a real incentivization to participate in research and their provide their knowledge in terms of either investing but also just general research. So a lot of that I think has evolved over the years and has the potential to really just skyrocket.
That's what I want to hear. It has a potential to skyrocket. So if you are considering, your next startup, you should consider DAO structure maybe for it. You don't need to launch token, immediately, but
Yeah.
it helps to have some of the blockchain rails on the back end and be kind of digitally native. Like I was talking to the previous guest who was from like decentralized science, and as you said, like the research DAOs, yeah, that's kind of what they are building. The decentralized IP, new drug development, longevity, and it's like all the money is going for that type of drug development, and it's like the business case is getting better and we can focus on some more niche kind of aspects
Mhm.
using this kind of DAO structure and helping like more people in general. It's not just like this one drug we will earn millions or billions of dollars for the pharma company. Like it's more community driven. We need all the different type of drugs and development we can get, and they are supporting it. So yeah, I definitely love like how the space evolved, and you said that it's human centric. It's not stakeholder centric. It's like really human centric, like a human centric organization, and we coordinate what we want to achieve, and that's beautiful.
I agree. I really do. One of the reasons why I was so drawn to the decentralized world or the whole philosophy behind the Web3 space is because I believe everybody deserves a chance to be awarded based on merit and not because of background or financial means. And a DAO structure in its essence to me has a lot of that philosophy built in because no matter how, if you are a member, right, you participate, you also get rewarded for it. And it's a clear structure around that. So everybody is rewarded based on merit and to some degree, but the opportunity is clearly there versus, you know, being maybe held down because of a bias or some other aspect that sadly is keeping, a lot of people maybe from progressing in their jobs. And this is something I think more people should consider when they're thinking about their organizational structures because it does provide, not without its faults, of course, but it does provide a platform where incentivization is really clearly giving and favoring those that participate. And that can also be a really great mechanism to just get people enthusiastic about what you're doing.
Yeah, and that's why I'm here as well. Democratizing the kind of access to capital and kind of democratizing the entrepreneurship and people who want to achieve something they can. It's not perfect. It will never be perfect, but we are getting better. And like as you said, like the participation is rewarded, and that's the I would say many investors are giving the same advice. Like it's not about the best product, it's not about the most skills, but about the perseverance. And like you need to be here and like be persistent, and flexible. And like I think like DAOs maybe even extrapolate on that. Like it's even more important just to be present. You don't need to be the most skillful, let's say, or the from the best family for that sake. But like if you are here, you get the opportunity to succeed.
Yeah.
So for the founders, maybe also, I know you are like working with many founders and stuff like that. Like, can you maybe mention like recent examples, projects? You can mention them. You don't need to, like, which you think like this is like a cool use case or great team. Like why you maybe invest in those, and just like for people to get more like practical sense, like what is actually now kind of being supported by Mona.
Yeah, sure. So from an investment perspective, I mean, we are often investing in kind of pre-seed, seed, Series A startups. What I do have to say is that it is very tricky in the funding environment that we have seen for a while to go to a venture capital specific investor and say, I have nothing. I have this great idea. I'm a great person. And please put a lot of money into this idea. This ultra pre-seed or even pre-seed napkin, back of napkin idea is not something that I think is the right way to go because maybe all, but definitely most VCs will tell you come back when you have some tractions, come back when you have a MVP, a most viable product, so we can actually evaluate something. And I have to admit I'm in that same boat. I have a responsibility also to the shareholders, to the limited partners, the people that give their capital for me to be part of the team to distribute that capital into startups, and we need something to analyze. So, given that baseline, to answer your question, I would say if you should be a team or a collection of people that really have subject matter expertise and a passion for what you're building. I like to give this example because I think it's very clear. If you're building a decentralized cloud infrastructure, but nobody in your team or yourself has ever interacted in any way or form with the complicated cloud infrastructure as we know it today, it is very difficult for me to believe that you are the best person or the best team to build a decentralized version of something you have no clue of, right? The idea might be valid, but you need to have the right knowledge in order to actually execute on a very complex topic like this. So that's something I think is really important. Plus, being around and surrounded by other co-founders, team members that kind of have a symbiotic or have a positive kind of relationship, complementary is the word I'm looking for, relationship to your skill set. If you're great at sales, you might need someone who's a bit more technical. If you're more technical, you might need someone who's a bit more business orientated or commercial in the way that they approach or look at the project. So there's this is one thing that's really, really important. It's in a very early stage project that is not something to brush over. Secondly, what I would say is quite important if you have a DAO structure or not, but what is really important is, will anybody pay for this? Will anybody want to use this? Will there be a way for you to generate utility, either in the token or in the equity, or in incentivization within the DAO structure that you have? But there needs to be a reason why this is used, and there needs to be some sort of value creation. And if it's wonderful to have, if it's free and people can kind of non-sticky potentially sometimes use it, it's not a venture backable project, right? So think about that, because a venture capitalist thinks, I want to support you, but I also want a return on the back of this support because that's my job. So, in my opinion, a good venture capitalist gives you funding and gives you support, gives you connection, gives you an open ear, gives you a long-term friend, like a marriage almost. But they also want something for that in return, right? Which it is a business transaction to some degree, and you need to keep that in mind. And so also when you're pitching to a VC, I think it's important to remember that, right? It is creating a safety network for the investor. Like, we are the right team. There's a market for what we're building. There's a market that will pay for what we're building. We can get a huge part of the market share for this product or project or service. We're at the right time. It is now that we want to hit the market because the timing is right. If we have a token, the token has utility, and this is how the utility is generated. Our tokenomics are well thought through. We understand that many people sell upon TGE. We understand sell pressure could potentially tank our token, right? There's a few of these really baseline things that I think are important. Plus, of course, we actually have a product. We have a technically sound product. We understand we need to audit our product, right, before we bring it onto the market. And we cannot go and completely ignore regulations either, because eventually that might bite us harder than anything in the back. So it's a long-winded answer, but I think if you rewind this and maybe listen to it again, those are probably, I would say, the 6 or so main building blocks that you should have thought about and are able to talk to or talk about with a VC when you go pitch to them.
That's a great learning from me. So, if I will go pitch to VCs, I will definitely listen to it again. I think the main takeaway from me is like don't come with the napkin, come with the product.
Yeah.
Um, and if you want to really get the funding, come with product that people pay for.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes. Yes. At the right time, with the right team.
if they already pay for the product, I think we are almost there. Like we have something we already built. People have to pay for it. No, this was amazing, and myself, I learned a lot, and it's always great, catching up with you, Mona. Is there
Yeah.
anything I did
Likewise.
not ask? You would still want to say in the last couple minutes?
Look, I think, tiny, 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 minute part of this, the book that you authored, and I think it is a really good. This is really a shameless plug, and you didn't ask me to do this, so but I do want to say it. It's a great guide for like newcomers, right? And it also something that offers insights for kind of more seasoned practitioners into the complexities and demystifies a lot of these complexities around governance, around tokenomics, around community building, um, around organization exploring to become or be DAOs. And I think that's very rare in the market. I haven't seen a lot of publications that have such a overview for all types of people that are interested in DAOs. So I think that that's something just worth actually mentioning. And I am cautiously bullish on DAOs. I think they have really immense potential for transforming governance and, like we said, collective decision making, community incentivization, giving democratization, like you said, right? Giving really a collaborative environment to organizational structures. And therefore, I think a lot more people should actually consider this. We have a lot of teething issues. Yeah, when we will get it right, I think there's so much potential for actually a lot more value creation utilizing the DAO structure.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it was, that's what we are trying to achieve. And I hope we will be all successful. I'm bringing more people into DAO. So if people want to learn more about, what you are thinking, what you are up to, where they can find you.
Yeah, I mean, they can either find me on LinkedIn, Mona Tiesler. There's only one of me, so you won't have trouble figuring out which one to contact. I have a blog on my LinkedIn. I also have Twitter, which is Crypto Mona T. That's also the handle for Telegram. So happy for people to reach out, mention that you've heard this and in the How to DAO podcast, and happy to support, give advice, or learn from you as well. So happy also to receive advice and feedback. And yeah, yeah, reach out.
And this is amazing. And we will put all the links in the show notes so people can find you and people can find some of the content we mentioned on this show. So thank you again, Mona. It was amazing. I hope our newcomers into crypto learn how they can evaluate the tokens or their business models for that sake. So thank you again, and hopefully talk soon.
Yeah, thank you so much. Speak soon.
Thank you for tuning into How to DAO. If you are excited about the future of DAOs, as we are, don't forget to check our book How to DAO, available on Amazon. And for those looking for something special, visit howtodao.xyz to grab a limited partner edition version with an NFT that unlocks some very exclusive perks. And if you want to dive even deeper, we just launched our 6-week course on DAOs packed with actionable insight and expert guidance. So get the book, follow us on social media, join our community, and we will guide you through the fascinating world of decentralized autonomous organizations. Until next time, keep building, keep DAOing.